series, more for new users and users that maybe have not gone through official navigation and basic SmartList training. In our part 2 and part 3 series, we're going to go into a lot more depth, especially on some SmartLists in individual areas. Like a lot of times, you might not be aware that you even have a wildcard functionality available in SmartList. So a lot of things that we're planning on doing in this series and suggestions are definitely welcome. So Heather, I'm going to turn it over to you to get us started.
All right, thank you so much, Dennis. And I did want to note that I am recording this. We have created a new YouTube channel that we will be announcing shortly, so we hope to upload this video to our YouTube channel and also upload some more videos in the future. And you guys should see a little chat box on there. If you have any questions at all, feel free to write a question in the chat box and we can address it either after the webinar or through email one-on-one. So most of you guys know who we are, but just to reiterate, we're your Microsoft Dynamics GP partner, and we are here to help you. We have combined more than 20 plus years of GP SmartList experience, and we are also experienced in a multitude of industries. We're also members of GPUG, which is a GP user group. So just a couple objectives for today. As Dennis mentioned, we're going to be going over helpful tips and tricks geared mostly for new GP users, but also seasoned pros as well. We're also going to utilize SmartList reporting to its full potential at the end. Just to go over our agenda for today, we're going to cover both navigation and SmartList as the title indicates. We're going to look at the toolbar, how to customize, also how to customize this page. We're going to look at user preference, your layout in GP by user. We're going to show you how to hide and show more buttons, and then we'll also customize your home page. And also look at navigation lists in each module, just a little brief overview. On the SmartList side, we're going to add, modify, go over a few terminology we like to call add and modify, save and save as. We're also going to search or filter, go over columns, exporting to Excel, and then go over a few SmartList examples. All right, SmartList navigation. How to make GP efficient and customized for your user ID. And as you'll see when you look at my GP, everybody's GP looks different. It can be customized the way you want it. So first we're going to look at how to customize your toolbar. Changes made are to the top toolbars in GP. You can also click a little square on the right of GP, top right, and I'll show you that in just a second. You can add buttons here, you can move buttons around, you can modify buttons, and you can also add divider lines. So I'm going to just bring GP up to show you the toolbar real quick. And this little top piece of real estate at the top is your toolbar. We have received service calls before where someone's transactions, all this was missing off of their toolbar. They didn't know how to get it back. So basically there's a little square at the top right, and your GoToMeeting may be hiding it. You may have to move your GoToMeeting box. But if you click on that, you also see navigation pane right here checked. So if I uncheck that, it just takes away that left blue navigation pane. So that's also an option in there. But going back to toolbars, you see I have several things checked right here that we're seeing over here, and my toolbar is kind of a mess. I've just got things everywhere, and you can drag these around as long as your lock toolbars is unchecked. So when I check lock toolbars, you cannot drag these items around. So I'm going to uncheck lock toolbars, and I'm going to move this over here. And I want my GP in the middle where I can see it. The main thing that I like to have on my toolbar is make sure I have standard checked, because when I uncheck that, a lot of things go away. And standard also has the little light bulb where you can quickly bring up SmartList. And so you can play with these, move them up and down. You can customize. And if I click on main toolbar right here, I can insert a divider line. And that just puts these little divider lines right here that you can see. So that's a little bit about the toolbar. Like I said, we've actually received service calls from people that did not know how to move this around. So we just wanted to go over that with you and show you how to modify your toolbar. So I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint. The next item we wanted to cover is customizing this page. This is also on the home page. If you cannot check any of the boxes, and by boxes I mean these right here, make sure you go down to change role and select a role closest to your job description. We have received several service calls on that in the past as well. Someone was trying to get their quick links back and they tried to come in here and check it. They hit OK and nothing happened. There's no quick links. They would go back into the box. They see it's unchecked. They try to check it again. Again, no quick links. What happens is sometimes your role might get erased somehow, and so when you go in to change role down here, you can choose accounting manager, for example. If you're an accounting manager, then it'll bring your quick links back. So this displays on the home page. You can add displays. You can change the column layouts. And we recommend keeping the following unchecked. This connect right here, time management, project time and expense, and business analyzer. Let me bring GP back up so I can show you that. So make sure you're on the home page, because also the other pages have a customized this page as well, but it's different than the home page. So make sure you're on the home page, and you can see some of my boxes up here already, my quick links to do, my reports. And I'm going to click Customize Home Page, and I'm going to uncheck my to-do just to show you that that will erase my to-do box. And you can bring it back at any time. And also, while I'm here, every single box in GP has this little question mark, and you even have one at the very top right. But you can click on any question mark in GP, and it'll kind of explain what that window is about if you have any questions about how things work in GP. So that's a handy little tool, and that's inside every single window. But you can also collapse these if you don't want to see them, just like anything else, make them bigger. And also, you may not realize how handy this My Reports is. You can go to any report in GP, and we'll just go to a quick trial balance. We'll do a trial balance summary. And so any report in GP has this My Reports box right here that will get added when you push it to your home page, My Reports. So if there's a report that you're having to pull up daily, it might be a good idea to come into the report that you go into and add it to My Reports. So I'm just gonna, nope, this one already exists. I'm gonna rename it. And then I'm going to add it to my reports. And you can actually rename it here if you want to name it something else. So I'm going to name this Summary Trial Balance. Just something that I know is not already named the same over here. So I'm going to hit OK, and I'm going to go ahead and get out of my reports over here. And you can see it hasn't added it yet, so I'm going to go to my top right. Again, you may have to move your GoToMeeting window to see this, but there's a little refresh button up here. So when I did that, it actually refreshed it and brought my report right here. So now I can just click on it from my home page and get my report real quick. So that's a handy little tool that not a lot of people use or know about, that we thought that some of you might be interested in using. So I'm going to get back to the PowerPoint slide. User preference. Again, we get a lot of service calls about how do you change your password. So-and-so's locked out. How do they change their password if they don't like their password? So you can actually do it from the user preference box. That's a big one. It's under the Microsoft Dynamics GP dropdown, and it just says user preferences. Here we like to make sure we go in and select our return key, and that way you can still use your tab key because it's the default to tab through windows and fields in GP, but you can also use your return key as well, so you can use both. We also like to come in and uncheck this default report destination. We like to uncheck printer and bring everything up to the screen and view it before we print. And that does not affect posting reports in GP. You can also change the way you view GP windows with this window command display. I think there's 3 options in there. If you choose one, you do have to log out of GP and log back in to see the differences in the windows. So you can play with that and see what you prefer to see. And as I mentioned, you can also change your password over here. You can also change the font, and then there's also an autocomplete feature in here that remembers what you've keyed in before in GP. So I'm going to bring that up and show just a couple of things from user preferences. And I actually have a little shortcut over here that I'm going to choose, but like I said, you can also go to your drop-down Microsoft Dynamics GP and user preferences. So here I unselected my printer because I want to bring every report to the screen. I may not want to print everything that comes out of GP. I may want to look at it first. And then I changed the entry key to return. Like I said, you can still use your tab key, but that just gives you the ability to return as well. And then there's different windows that just looks differently. So you can play with that, choose one, log out of GP, log back in, and see how different it looks. The password, you just have to know your old password and enter your new password if you're not happy with your current password. And sometimes passwords get assigned and you may want to change it to something you're more comfortable with. Under display, we want to make sure that your required fields are red. Usually the default is black, but it really helps you see what needs to be changed when you're entering a sales order or purchase order. It shows you your required fields that have to be entered are the red ones. We also like to bold. Now your font color, I don't know if many of you are aware of this, but there's several different font colors you can change. Us females like to do violet. There's also a turquoise and a pink, teal. And so you can play with that and change that, and that only changes per user, so that's not going to change anybody else's font color in GP. So those are the main things in user preference that a lot of people don't know about. We wanted to make sure you guys know about. Going over the Windows layout in GP, layout can vary also from your user preference. So the way you change things, the way your GP looks is only associated with your user ID. Somebody else's might be different. But you can hover over the top right of the box to choose arrows to maximize your window. You can drag boxes around. And also, as I mentioned before, in the financial module, payroll, all of those modules, they have their own customized this page that you can select or unselect windows. You can hide certain windows not used year-round, such as utilities, routines, or setup. So I'm going to go over to the financial page. And as you can see, I have some of my windows hidden right now, but if I need to look at my setup, utilities, and routines that I've hidden, I'm just going to go up to the top right, customize this page. And I'm going to bring back my setup, utilities, and routines because I'm at year end and I need the things that are in these windows. So I'm going to click OK. And now everything is brought back. I can collapse this one. I can move things around. There's little arrows right here to make it bigger. There's another little arrow beside it to expand or collapse. So you can drag things around. You can just play with it the way you want to view it. And now year end's over. I want to hide my setup, utilities, and routines because I'm not in those every day. And they're gone. So also a little feature that some people aren't aware of is the bottom left of your screen. There's a little arrow, as you can see circled right here. You can show more buttons. You can show fewer buttons on the left navigation pane. You can also add to the navigation pane here, and it gives you navigation pane options. You can change the way you view your modules on the left of the page. So that is right here at the bottom left. And you can see right now I can view the home, financial, HR, and payroll, and purchasing. The other modules are actually down here as little buttons. So if you needed to go to sales, you could click right here and go to sales. But say I want sales over here because I'm going to be entering sales order now instead of doing purchasing. So I'm going to go to my navigation pane options by going to this little button down here. And I need to bring sales up to the top because I'm not doing purchasing anymore. And I'm going to move purchasing down because I don't need that anymore. And so I'm going to hit OK. And now my sales button is visible to me, one that I'm going to be in more than I'm in purchasing now. You can also show more buttons to bring some of these up. And you can show fewer to show less. And you can also, as you can see, there's a little arrow right here. You can make this bigger if you want, or smaller. So now we get to customizing your home page. So you can only add links on the home page only, not the other modules such as financial, human resources, payroll. By right-clicking on the left navigation pane area, and that's the blue area, you can add GP windows, you can add SmartList, you can add macros, which we'll cover in a later webinar in more detail. You can add web pages, external shortcuts such as Excel spreadsheets or management reporter, something that you're in every day. And you can also add folders to put things in. So I need to go back to the home page because right now I'm on sales. You can try clicking over here. I'm trying to do right click, but you can't add anything to the module pages. So you have to be on the home page. And here you can see I've added a few things up here already. But basically you just right click and add, and there's all of your options. I don't really like adding a window from here because it's a little bit more complicated than going to something that you're in every day. So I just wanted to bring that up to show you. But the way I like to add windows in GP is, for example, and I keep coming back to this journal entry because a lot of people are in journal entries every day. But every single window, and these are called windows in GP, has a file folder. And in the file folder, the very top button is Add to Shortcuts. So I'm going to choose Add to Shortcuts. And then I'm going to go back to my home page. And this has actually been added over here as transaction entry. So when I click it, my journal entry comes up. But I don't like the way it's worded, transaction entry, because that could mean a purchase order entry, sales order entry. It's very vague, so I want to rename that. So I'm going to name this Journal Entry 2 because I believe I already have a journal entry up there. And when you rename, you have to click the Enter key here. If you hit the Tab key, it will erase the name and it will not save it. So it's a little finicky. You just remember to click the Enter key. And so earlier I had made this folder up here with the journal entry, the same window, but we're going to pretend like it's not there, and I'm going to create a new folder to put my journal entry in. So I just right clicked and clicked folder, and now I want to rename this by right clicking on it and renaming. So I'm going to name this one Financial Transactions. And I want my journal entry window to be in this new folder that I created so I can put other things in this folder. So I'm actually going to right click and I'm going to cut just like you do in Word and Excel. And I'm going to click on Financial Transactions, right click, and I'm going to paste. And now I've started a little folder that I can keep adding to. So depending on your job description, you can put everything you do over here, just like you do quick links. It works the same as quick links. So you can also add a smart list. So if there's a smart list that you're in daily, you can come over here and here's the available smart list favorites. It looks a lot like smart list. So I'm going to add this payables one right here. And I'm going to click add and done. And there's my payable smart list that I can click the button and bring it up. Next, I'm going to add the web page. A lot of you are in your bank's website every day, so a lot of you that do use this feature, a lot of people like to put their bank website here. So I'm just going to put regions. And you can also add hotkeys to these. So if you're in GP and you wanted to bring regions up, you could just assign a hotkey to it, F4. And then all you'd have to do is click F4 and regions pops up. So I'm going to add this and click done, and I'm going to come over here and click on regions. And that should bring you to the regions website. So if you're like me, my internet browser has a ton of favorites that I have saved. So this is a nice way of, if you have a website that you're in every day, just having one click, so you don't have to go through your favorites. The external shortcut is also very popular because a lot of you have your favorite Excel spreadsheet that you're in every day. And let me, I had added one earlier, so I'm going to delete this one so I can add it again. Basically, you just browse out to your folders, and I saved one to my desktop. Then I'm going to go out and find this GP template right here, and I'm going to name this GP template. Of course, you can also assign it a hotkey as well. And then you have your Excel spreadsheet over here saved that you can click on and bring up with the touch of a button. So as I mentioned before, we do want to go over macros at a later date. We'll probably do a short webinar on just adding macros, but they're very handy when it comes to printing in GP, because as you know, some of the things you do in GP, there is a ton of reports that get printed with them. And so we like to create a macro that just runs through all the reports, sends them all to the printer, or either sends them all to a different file that you have out there. And so you don't have to do anything. It just automatically sends them to where you want them to go. So a lot of people use the macro for that. So we will definitely do something in the future going over how to add a macro in GP. So that was basically it on the customizing your home page. You can do a lot with those making folders, making it similar to quick links, but you can also, like I said, get to websites, Excel spreadsheets. A lot of people like to put Management Reporter. You just have to browse out to the executable file for Management Reporter, and then you can click on it and it gets you where you need to be quickly. So the next item is navigation list in each module, which is the left side, the blue of the page. Each module, financial, purchase and sales, etc., has different options on the left blue navigation pane. You can customize. There's unlimited levels of search here. Like Dennis mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, there's just so much you can do, one-stop shop. The one thing that I did want to show you guys today is that you can run financial trial balances out of sequential order under financial, and we love this. So I'm going to bring GP back. We do hope to do a webinar too in the future on all the features that they offer. There's a ton of things you can do with the navigation pane. But the main one that I really love and everybody I talk to loves is under financial accounts up here. And it may take it a second to come up. But basically you get a listing of all of your GL accounts. And as you know, when you print the trial balance, you can only do things in order. But here you can select what you want, and you can only print these 3 trial balances and look at them by going to Reports, Print Trial Balance, and then Print. And so if you only want to see a couple of accounts and not the whole trial balance, you can just click on what you want to see, and it only gives you the trial balance for those 3 that I selected only. So that's a pretty cool little tool. And of course this is 10 pages, so it's kind of hard to see, but it's only showing the 3 accounts that I selected.
Heather, a good example, a lot of our payroll clients will use this for medical insurance, for example. You might have medical insurance broken out between the three withholding liability accounts, but here you can see them all in one report. So a lot of functionality that Heather really recommends when she does her training.
Yeah, and I just wanted to touch on the financial one with this one because it's so big. A lot of people want a quick list of their whole GL account listing, and so if you just check this box, I don't want to check it because it might take forever, and select everything, you can just go to up here and send everything to Excel, and then you'll have your listing in Excel. So that's a pretty cool feature. But as Dennis mentioned, these are one-stop shops. Up here you can go to account, you can add a new GL account if you want to. So it's just another way to get to the screens that you're used to seeing in GP. So we love the navigation pane. All right, now we're going to go on to SmartList, and us accountants love us some Excel. We love SmartList because we can take the data from GP and turn it into Excel reports easy, and then we can slice and dice it, create pivot tables, we can make address labels, and go from there. Of course, you can also take the SmartList to Word, but that's not as much fun. And just a couple of things before we start going over a couple of the smart lists that we think that you guys should be utilizing. I've found that some clients had no idea this was there. You can also get to smart list by going to the GP dropdown and just choosing smart list. But if you have that standard toolbar selected, you should have this little light bulb, and that's your little smart list icon that brings you to the smart list. So some people don't know that's there, so I wanted to make sure you all knew that the little light bulb meant SmartList. And here we just want to go over some basic terminology used in SmartList. When the developers developed SmartList back in the late 90s, our terminology was a little different than it is today, and it hasn't changed in the SmartList features. So up here at the top left, if you look at search, we like to think of search as filtering results. It's an easy way to think about it. Columns is pretty much what it is. It's adding columns of data. What are you looking for? What do you want to see? Your favorites, that's the most important. That's where you save or save as, which they call modify. And you definitely want to save your smart list so you're not having to recreate the smart list every time. We never click new or modify at the top. Those are no buttons. We can explain that in a later go-to meeting. And of course here with your little one button, you can shoot it to Excel or Word in a flash. So now we're going to look at some examples. And I want to go up here and click my little light bulb to get to SmartList. And I have a couple of things that I want to show you guys, and as Dennis mentioned, we're going to go into more detail in the future, and we'll probably do more specialized trainings. We'll probably have one session just going over some sales smart list, one going over ones that people use in purchasing to better serve you guys. But we just want to go over a few that we think that you guys should be utilizing. So here, when you make these bigger, you can actually right click in here and you can increase and decrease width. So as you start naming them and they get longer names, they might actually be hiding some. And so you may have to right click and increase so you can see everything. But I want to start off with a quick little payroll one. I know we have a few payroll members on the webinar. So one that you would probably use a lot would be in the payroll historical transaction, where you can filter 401k deductions. For example, if you wanted to see who got deducted 401k deductions with the last payroll, you can quickly do a smart list to see that. And I'll just show you the search box here. We filtered the payroll code to only equal 401k, and we're pretending like the last check date was really February 2014. So we can quickly look at a glance at who was deducted 401k on this check date, and we can shoot that out to Excel if we need to. And to create any smart list, you have to start at this little asterisk. And so for that one, for example, it only brings up a couple of fields of data that you have to build on from here. And so for the 401k one, I went to columns and click add to add a couple more columns. And I always come to this available columns right here and select all columns. That way you get everything that you need. And so here I'm just going to search for payroll code. And I'm going to click find next, and there's my payroll code. And I'm going to hold my control button down so I can select more than one. And I'm going to click payroll record type. And I also want the check date, so I can filter by that check date. And I'm going to hit OK. And that brings those over here. I want to move my check date to the top, so that's the first thing that I see. And I'm going to hit OK. Oh, and as you can see, I put change date and not check date. So I'm going to go back to columns. And I'm going to remove change date because I did not want that one. And I'm just going to add check date. So if you goof up and you add the wrong thing, it's very easy to add the right thing. And I'm going to move that back to the top. And as you can see, there's several payroll codes here, but I just want to see 401k only. So I went to search, or we like to call it filter. And that's where I entered my search criteria. And this, I like to just, you can search over here for the column, but it brings you back to everything again. So I like to just move my box over and just copy the column name. To me, that's the quickest way. So I'll just type payroll code is equal to 401k. And then, of course, I had check date is equal to, we're pretending like the last check date was February 1st, 2014. And we always like to bump this up because it will stop at 1,000 records. And so to hurry up and save this, remember favorites is save and save as. So this is a new spreadsheet, and we're just going to name this one. And we like to start with our initials so that you can kind of keep your spreadsheets together. And you may want to check with your organization, but here at DLD, when Dennis creates a spreadsheet, he'll name it DLD. And when I create one, I'll do my initials, and so the ones that we create and the ones that we're going to use every day are kind of all together. And so add is our save button, and if you already have a smart list created and you're changing something, then you want to come here and click modify, and that's your save as button. And so that's a little bit how that works. We're getting close on time, so I just want to show you a couple more smart lists, and then we're going to go into much detail later. But under account transactions here, let's see. So I created a few things from this asterisk by adding originating master ID in the columns, originating master name, posted date, transaction source. This is basically journal entries that flow from payables. So I wanted to look at things that came over from purchasing. And let's see how I filtered it. I think I filtered it by date. So I picked a date that I wanted to see things that were posted from purchasing. And so many companies will create several of these and they'll sort by the series. So you can quickly at a glance see what came over and what posted from what module on a daily basis, monthly basis, etc. So this is a very handy smart list that we like to try to set up with our new clients. And you can see the journal entry over here, the GL account numbers, the debits and the credits. So it's very, very handy. Also, sticking with financial under accounts, there's a couple of things that accountants can really take advantage of. We like to set up the balance sheet accounts with the wrong posting type and also profit and loss accounts with the wrong posting type so that at year end you can check to make sure that you don't have any accounts misclassified. So here we'll just look at profit and loss, and as you can see, we have our profit and loss account numbers filtered over here. So we're just looking at the account numbers between these numbers, which is supposed to be our profit and loss accounts. And then we're searching posting type, balance is equal to balance sheet, and then account type is equal to posting account. You can select unit accounts if you use unit accounts and other accounts, but for this one, we like to just look at posting accounts. And so now your accounting manager or whoever's in charge of keeping up with your chart of accounts can go in and classify these the right way if they should be profit and loss instead of balance sheet. We also, if we use Management Reporter, we love this handy little smart list, new and modified GL accounts this month. So as you know, if you create a new general ledger account in GP, sometimes it does not come over to Management Reporter if you don't have it flowing together. Sometimes you have to add accounts manually to Management Reporter. So this one you can set up and you can see what general ledger accounts you created this month, the beginning of the month and the end of the month, that you need to add to Management Reporter, and then it'll give you a list. So I'm just going to leave that up a second in case you want to copy it. But that is a very handy one for anyone that uses Management Reporter. Going back to payroll, there's one under employees that's really good. So here, and just like with any of the modules, employees for payroll, vendors for purchasing, customers for sales, the very first asterisk will bring up the address labels. So this is a great one that we can cover later that will send, you can create labels to Word or Excel. So you have mailing labels at a glance. But here, for the payroll gurus on the webinar, I'm going to actually go back to columns, and I want to compare, see if there's anybody whose adjusted hire date is different than their real hire date. And so I want to see people that were rehired. So I'm going to add that one. And I'm going to add the start date. And I'm going to take away the address, city and state, because I just want to use the fields from the employee card, just looking at their start dates only. I'm going to hit OK.
Heather, let's change the benefit adjustment date to hire date, adjusted hire date, and start date to hire date. And this you'll find when you're using SmartList, the SQL name versus the name you see in the window sometimes can be different. But look what Heather's doing right here. She's typing it under display name, and a lot of you don't realize that you have this capability. Make it a name that you're familiar with in your industry and your terminology. And one of the other ones that come to mind in GP SmartList is called job title, but in the window it's called position. So you'll see every once in a while these little weird quirks that the SQL name can be different than the display name, but you can save this to what you want the column to be named. It's a very, very cool feature.
Yep, if you wanted to name it rehire also, if you do a lot of rehires in your organization. So here we're going to name it the same thing as the column. Oh, no, we've got to go back to the bin. Well, let me do start date. There we go. So here I did start date is equal to adjusted hire date, but I want to do start date is not equal to the adjusted hire date, and I'm going to do failed comparison.
So that field comparison can be used in a lot of different ways that a lot of our clients don't realize that it's there, especially on inventory reports. If you have on sales so much on orders, but you don't have enough inventory, you can check real quickly with a SmartList, quantity on hand compared to quantity on order if it's less to issue a PO to your vendor. So a lot of uses for that comparison field.
Yeah, and here basically what that did was it brought up 2 employees that have been rehired, and you can drill back to their employee card and you can see the different dates, the hire date and the adjusted hire date when they were rehired. So I think we're going to have to wrap it up on the SmartList. Dennis, is there anything you wanted to point out on the SmartList before we wrap it up? As we mentioned, we're going to do some more detailed webinars focusing heavily on SmartList.
Yeah, I want to sort of give a teaser on what we call wildcards and advanced search criteria. So a lot of you know inside the filtering or search in GP, you only have up to 4. There's ways to actually get around this in GP, but one of the things that you don't realize that's available right now that we'll go through this webinar is every SmartList has an any field. So Heather, if you don't mind maybe unmarking that field comparison and look in the lookup glass there and look at, there's an any field that's in every SmartList in GP. So we'll click OK, and we'll say contains, and we'll say Polar. And this, no matter what SmartList you're in, the historical transactions, it looks across columns. So even if you don't have the column displaying in your SmartList, it's going to still look. So like on some that you might just have the employee ID, you don't have the actual name, it's still looking across in GP database across all those columns. So that's a a good teaser for this one on our next webinar. There's a lot of functionality there that a lot of our clients are not familiar with on these wildcards. It's a very, very cool feature. Thanks, Heather, so much.
Yeah, and as we mentioned, we just kind of brushed the SmartList. Wanted to go over the few that we get a lot of questions about from accountants, but as we mentioned, in the future, we do want to break it down, and we do have a YouTube channel in the works, so we hope to do more webinars focusing solely on the module and the role you play in your organization. And that's not Dennis or me, by the way.
I'm the blind one.
So we are going to do a part 2, and we're going to focus heavily on SmartList. We may break down and do the navigation separate and have a couple of parts, navigation and SmartList. So we hope to do more detailed SmartList examples, and please email support@dldbsi.com if you have any suggestions, if there's anything that you feel that you're not getting out of GP right now that you need, we can help you with that. So we're going to take us, go ahead.
We are basically, as GP partners, we have to get certified. So both Heather and I are certified GP trainers. So one of our services that we offer to our clients is to come in and tailor a customized training program. We do that a lot of times with upgrades especially, but we can do it in any area. But on what we're wanting to present on things on our website and our YouTube channel is more generic type information that every company can take advantage of. And we're probably going to break it out into no more than 15 to 30-minute segments. So anything that you'd like to see on more navigations or specific smart lists for either payroll or sales orders, anything like that you're having a challenge with, definitely, email support@dldbsi.com, and we will tailor something, because that's something everybody can use. So we want to make sure that you are taking advantage of your investment in your GP product. Heather, thanks so much for everything you've done to prepare for this webinar. You've done a great job.
Yeah, and like I said, we didn't get to take a SmartList today to Excel because of time constraints, but we do want to do that in the future and add some pivot tables to mine data and go over document attach in the future. GP Word templates, which we've found through the past that not a lot of people know about, and it's a really handy tool in GP. And then, as I mentioned before, we definitely want to go through detailed navigation pane options where you can navigate from one area. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. I hope you got something out of this for new users and seasoned pros, and we hope to do more of these in the future. So I hope everybody has a great day.